Have you ever been punished just for being alive? I have. For 25 years, I was the other daughter in my own home, the mistake everyone blamed for everything my sister got it all: love, attention, second chances. And I got silence, guilt, and those eyes that said, "Things are peaceful when you're not around." When I finally got one chance, my first real job interview, they tried to take that away too. My father shoved me against the wall just because I said no. That day, I made a promise. I would never be their punching bag again. That day, I walked out of that house. I thought I was walking toward a new life, but I didn't know they'd try to break me again. Because when a man starts losing control, he doesn't fight with truth. He fights with cruelty, but this time, his own words became the evidence that destroyed him. And on that day, for the first time in my life, I finally learned what freedom feels like. And before we begin, tell me in the comments, where in the world are you listening from? Your words give me strength. They remind me I'm not alone. If this story touches your heart, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because more true stories like this are coming soon. My name is Haley Monroe. I'm 27 years old, and the morning my life changed forever started with a bruise on my shoulder. People think breaking points are loud, like glass shattering or doors slamming. Mine wasn't. It was quiet. Just the sound of my father's hand hitting the wall beside my head and a picture frame cracking behind me. I can still hear that sound sometimes, the way the glass fell, the way my breath stopped. That morning wasn't supposed to be like that. It was supposed to be the day I finally escaped. I had my first real job interview in just a few hours, a tech startup, Innovate, downtown. It wasn't just a job to me, it was freedom. It was proof that I wasn't crazy for believing I deserved more than that house, those people, those walls. But in my family, my future had always been an inconvenience. I was sitting at the kitchen table, rehearsing answers. "Tell me about yourself. What's your biggest strength?" I was whispering, trying not to wake anyone. That's when my sister walked in, Brianna. 2 years younger, but somehow the sun around which our entire family revolved. Perfect hair, perfect smile, and that smug little smirk that never faded. She opened the fridge like it owed her something. Then she looked at me, really looked, and said, "Drive me to the mall by noon." I blinked. "I can't, Bri. I have the interview." She rolled her eyes. "It'll take 10 minutes. Don't be dramatic." That's when I said the word I wasn't supposed to say in that house. "No." Her face changed. She tilted her head, smiled in that syrupy way of hers, and said quietly, "I'll tell Dad." I remember the chill that ran through me. Not fear, muscle memory, because I knew exactly what came next. And right on cue, my father stormed in. Rick Monroe, 6 feet of beer breath and disappointment. He looked at Brianna, then at me. "You think your little interview matters more than your sister's plans." His voice was already shaking with anger. "Dad," I started. He didn't let me finish. He grabbed my shoulders, his fingers dug into my skin, then he shoved, hard. My back hit the wall, my head hit the frame of our last family photo. The glass cracked. Something inside me cracked too. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at him, at his red face, at Brianna, who was smirking behind him, at my mother, standing by the toaster, staring at the broken frame. "Oh, Rick," she sighed. "Look what you did. The picture's broken." The picture. Not me. Not the daughter whose head just hit the wall. That was the day I realized something that took me 27 years to learn. In my family, I wasn't a person, I was a problem. That morning, when I pushed myself off that wall, when I brushed the plaster dust off my blazer, when I looked at my father and said, "No," that was the day I stopped being their punching bag. I know people like to say, family is everything. But what if everything means pain? What if family means the people who tell you, over and over again, that you'll never be enough? For me, it started small. Little moments that stacked up like bricks in a wall between me and them. I was the other child, the useful one, the one who kept things running. I did dishes, I cleaned, I listened, I apologized. Even for things I didn't do, Brianna's role was different. She was the chosen one. Her failures were challenges. Mine were proof. When I was in high school, I got straight A's. All A's, 1B. I left my report card on the counter, hoping someone would see it. That evening, Dad picked it up. A B in history? Guess you're not as smart as you think you are. He dropped it on the counter. Did you take the trash out? I hadn't. So I did. That same night, Brianna came home an hour past curfew, crying because she'd failed her algebra test. She hadn't studied, she'd been at a party. And my parents? They turned into superheroes. Who's that teacher? Dad demanded. We'll talk to the principal, Mom promised. They spent hours comforting her. Mom made her hot chocolate. Dad drafted an email to the school. My straight A's sat on the counter next to the junk mail. That was the pattern. My success was invisible. Her failure was an emergency. It didn't matter how much I tried, because in their story, I was the problem. Mom said it best once when I was 12. You just attract trouble, Haley. That was the day Brianna broke Mom's favorite vase. She was running in the house. I told her to stop. She tripped. The vase shattered. Mom came in, saw me standing there, saw Brianna crying. And she didn't even ask. She just said, Why, Haley? Why do you always start things? I tried to explain. I told her the truth. It didn't matter. I was grounded. Brianna got ice cream for being shaken up. That day, I learned something that stayed with me for the next 15 years. In that house, the truth didn't matter. Only the story they wanted to believe did. My father's favorite line was, You'll never make it out there. He said it when I talked about college. That's a lot of money, Haley. Be realistic. Stay home. Go to community college. 2 years later, Brianna wanted to go to an art school. 4 states away. Twice the cost. Dad signed the loan papers himself. She's got real talent, he said. She dropped out after 2 semesters. They said she was finding herself. Me? I was still the one doing dishes, taking shifts, paying bills, the reliable one, the invisible one. By the time I turned 25, I had worked more jobs than birthdays. A coffee shop, a diner, a restaurant, every job the same lesson. Work harder, smile more, don't complain. Every dollar I earned went into a secret bank account, one they didn't know about. It wasn't much, but it was mine. My escape fund. At night, after closing shifts, I'd sit on my bed with my old laptop, taking online courses, learning project management, Excel, how to write a professional email. No one knew. They didn't care enough to ask. And then, one day, an email changed everything. It was from a company called Innovate. They wanted an interview. It was more than a job. It was proof that I wasn't what they said I was. For 10 days, I prepared like my life depended on it. Because it did. The night before the interview, I ironed my navy blue blazer. A thrift store find, $100 I didn't have. But when I looked at it laid out on my bed, it didn't feel like fabric. It felt like armor. I went to sleep scared, but also free. For the first time, I had something that was truly mine. And the next morning, Brianna and Dad tried to take it away with one demand. Drive her to the mall. That's when my father shoved me. That's when I hit the wall. That's when everything finally snapped. I can still hear my mother's voice. Why do you always have to cause chaos, Haley? Your father's upset. Your sister's upset. Just apologize. I remember standing there, dust on my blazer, pain in my shoulder, and for the first time in my life, I said no. I picked up my keys. I picked up my purse. And when my father stepped in front of the door, blocking me, I looked him straight in the eye and said, Move. He told me I'd regret it. I smiled. No, I said, you will. And I walked out of that house, out of that story, out of the version of me they built. I didn't know it then, but that walk, that single act of defiance, was the start of everything that came next, because that was the day I stopped surviving and started living. When I stepped out of that house, I swear the air felt different. It was sharp, cold, honest. I'd lived in that neighborhood for 27 years, but I had never really seen it before. The same sidewalk I used to walk to school, the same oak tree whose roots cracked the curb, even the mail truck parked by the corner. Everything looked alive. Maybe because, for the first time, I was shaking. Not from fear, from release. My shoulder throbbed where my father had grabbed me. My throat burned from holding back tears. But I kept walking. I didn't look back. Not once. The house was behind me. That life was behind me. All I had now was my blazer, my notes, and a quiet, steady voice in my head saying, "Keep walking." I didn't have a car. Dad had taken the keys last week when I forgot to fill the tank. So I walked toward the CVS by the corner. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Mom, then Brianna. I didn't answer. I stood under a tree, trying to look normal, my blazer wrinkled and dusty. A couple walked past with their dog. The man smiled politely. He didn't know. No one knew that the girl standing there, shaking, bruised, trying not to cry, had just walked away from her own family. My phone buzzed again. I looked down and tapped one name I trusted. Tessa. She picked up on the second ring. Her voice was warm, familiar, steady. "Hey, Hales, you ready for the big day?" I opened my mouth but nothing came out. Just a breath that turned into a sob. "Haley?" Her tone changed immediately. "What's wrong? Where are you?" I was shaking so badly the phone nearly slipped. "Can you—" My voice broke. "Can you come get me?" "I'm on my way," she said. No hesitation. "Stay where you are. Don't move." 10 minutes later, I saw her silver SUV turning the corner. She parked, jumped out, and ran to me. The moment I saw her face, something inside me cracked open. All the strength I'd been pretending to have just fell apart. She didn't ask questions right away. She just hugged me. Her hoodie smelled like coffee and detergent and safety. When we sat in the car, she finally asked, "What happened?" I told her everything. Not all at once. It came out in gasps and fragments. "Brianna, she wanted a ride. Dad said—" Her hands tightened on the steering wheel. "And then he shoved me," I whispered. "He threw me against the wall. The frame broke." Tessa went quiet. Completely quiet. Her knuckles turned white on the wheel. Then, in that calm, deadly voice she only used when she was furious, she said, "He assaulted you." I shook my head fast. "No, it's how he gets. It's fine." She turned to me sharply. "No, Haley, it's not fine. He put his hands on you. That's assault. I don't care if it's your father. I don't care if it's family. That's not normal." I wanted to argue, but my voice broke. I whispered, "I just wanted to go to my interview." She reached over, put her hand on mine. "And you still will." I looked at her, confused. "Tessa, look at me." My reflection in the car window was a mess. Smudged makeup, wrinkled shirt, red eyes. "I can't walk into a building looking like this." She exhaled, opened the glove box, and started pulling things out. Concealer. Wipes. A water bottle. "This," she said, "is what best friends are for." We parked behind a grocery store. She made me take off my blazer. She sprayed it with a wrinkle release. She brushed my hair, covered the bruise with makeup. It felt ridiculous. But she kept saying, "They don't get to take this from you, Hales. Not this." When I started to cry again, she just said, "You've already done the hardest thing. You walked out. The interview? That's the easy part." I didn't believe her then, but I wanted to. She drove me downtown, past neighborhoods I'd never been to, past the kind of buildings I used to stare at through bus windows and wonder what people inside them felt like. When the Innovate building came into view, I couldn't breathe. It was all glass and steel, tall, clean, quiet. It looked like another world. I froze. "I can't go in there." "Yes, you can," Tessa said. She parked the car and unbuckled her seatbelt. "Look at me, Haley. You deserve this. You worked for this. You earned this." I'm just a waitress." She shook her head. "No. You're the woman who survived that house. You're the woman who just walked out of hell. You can walk through a glass door." She was right. I took a deep breath. I fixed my collar. I held my notes in shaking hands. Then she said something that I still think about every single morning. "Go in there, not to prove them wrong. Go in there to prove yourself right. When I walked through the doors of Innovate, I half expected someone to stop me, like I had a sign on my forehead that said, "Does not belong here." But no one looked twice. The security guard just smiled. "Interview?" he asked. I nodded. "Ninth floor," he said, pointing to the elevator I stepped in. The walls were glass. The city stretched beneath me. For a second, I saw my reflection. I didn't see a waitress. I didn't see the quiet, apologetic daughter. I saw a woman in a navy blue blazer, standing tall. When the doors opened, I stepped into a new world. Carpets instead of sticky tile, soft voices instead of yelling, smiles that weren't fake. The receptionist looked up. "Hi, welcome to Innovate. Can I help you?" I said, "I'm here for an interview. Haley Monroe." Her smile was genuine. "They've been expecting you." Those 4 words almost broke me. They've been expecting you. No one had ever expected me before. I sat in the waiting area. My heart was beating so loud I thought everyone could hear it. I thought of my father's voice, "You'll never make it out there," and for the first time I smiled, because I was already out. The interview was nothing like I imagined. It wasn't an interrogation. It was a conversation. A man named Mark and a woman named Emily, the director, both kind, both human. They didn't talk down to me. "So," Emily said, scanning my resume, "I see you managed inventory at the cafe and coordinated shifts at the restaurant. That's impressive." I laughed nervously. "That's just what you do when you have to survive." She smiled. "That's called resourcefulness." Something inside me unclenched. They asked about conflict resolution, time management, teamwork. I told them about nights where customers screamed at me, where I had to calm angry tables, cover shifts, fix mistakes that weren't mine. Every horror story of my service jobs turned into a strength. By the time it ended, I wasn't nervous anymore. I was proud. Mark shook my hand. Emily smiled. "We'll be in touch soon." When I stepped back into the sun, Tessa was waiting across the street, pretending to read a book. She looked up, searching my face. I didn't have to say anything. She saw it. She grinned. "You nailed it, didn't you?" I started to laugh, the kind of laugh that comes from years of pain suddenly turning into relief. "I think I did," I said, wiping my eyes. "I think I'm finally going to be okay." She hugged me. And for the first time in my life, I believed it. That night, I stayed at Tessa's apartment. It was small, messy, smelled like coffee and her cat, Frank. But it was home. She made soup and grilled cheese. I didn't think I was hungry, but I ate. Every bite felt like strength returning. I remember her saying, "You did the impossible today, Haley." And for once, I didn't argue. But the truth is, the story didn't end there, because monsters don't disappear when you walk away. They follow you. And mine, my father, wasn't done with me yet. The next morning, my phone started buzzing. Missed calls, dozens. Texts from Mom, from Brianna, from him. At first, I ignored them. Then, one notification froze my blood. It was an email from Innovate. Subject line: "Following up on your interview." I opened it. And before I finished reading, I felt my stomach drop, because somehow, even from miles away, he had found a way to hurt me again. When I saw the subject line, "Following up on your interview," my heart did this strange thing. It stopped. Then it started racing so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Tessa was sitting across from me, scrolling through her phone. I held mine like it was a live wire. "This is it," I whispered. "They're emailing already." "Open it," she said, grinning. "I told you they'd want you." I tapped the screen. The message opened. For 1 second, just one, my chest filled with light. Then I started to read. "Dear Haley, thank you so much for coming in today. We were all very impressed with you. This is a bit of an unusual email, but we need to address something. We just received a phone call from a Mr. Rick Monroe, your father, who expressed serious concerns about your mental stability and workplace behavior. He described you as emotionally volatile and potentially violent. Out of an abundance of caution, we are placing your application on hold while we review this information. We appreciate your time and understanding. Innovate Recruitment Team. By the time I reached the end, I couldn't breathe. The room tilted. Tessa's voice sounded far away. "Haley? What's wrong?" I handed her the phone. I couldn't speak. She read it. Her expression changed mid-sentence, from confusion to disbelief to fury. When she looked up, her eyes were dark. "He called them," she said softly. "He actually called your interviewers." I nodded, my throat closing. He used the same words: unstable, violent. It hit me like a wave. He wasn't just cruel. He was strategic. He hadn't just shoved me that morning. He had thrown me against a wall, then reached through a phone line to finish the job. Tessa put my phone down carefully, like it might break. "Haley," she said, "this isn't just abuse anymore. This is sabotage. Professional slander." But I wasn't listening. My head was buzzing. My father's voice was echoing. "You'll see what happens when you cross me." I whispered it out loud without realizing. "What?" Tessa asked. "He said that," I said. My voice was shaking. "He called me before the interview. He left a voicemail. He said, you'll see what happens when you cross me." Tessa froze. "Do you still have it?" "Yes." She grabbed the phone, opened my voicemail, hit play. His voice filled the tiny living room. It was slurred, mean, familiar. "You think you're better than us? You think you can just walk out? You're not better, Haley. You're nothing. You're a problem. You've always been a problem. You're unstable, violent, you're sick in the head. I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you are." The message ended. The silence that followed was heavy. Frank the cat, who had been asleep on the couch, jumped down and ran under the bed. Tessa didn't move for a full minute. Then she said very quietly, "He recorded his own crime." I blinked. "What?" "That voicemail," she said, "it's evidence. He used the same language he gave them. It proves his intent. It proves defamation." I shook my head. "Tessa, no one will believe me. He's my father. He's a partner at his firm. He's respected." "Exactly," she said, standing up, "which means he has more to lose." We moved fast after that. I didn't know what Tessa was doing at first. She had her laptop open, typing like a storm. She was in full battle mode. "Okay," she said, not looking up. "His company, what's the name again?" I told her. She found him on LinkedIn in seconds. His smiling corporate headshot stared back at us. "Rick Monroe, senior partner, external accounts." "Perfect," she said. "Perfect?" I repeated. "Because he didn't just attack his daughter," she said. "He used his position to defame a candidate at another company. That's professional misconduct." Her voice was steady, clinical. I was still shaking. "What are we going to do?" I asked. "We," she said, "are going to respond to Innovate. Calmly, professionally, and with documentation. You're not going to yell or cry. You're going to sound like exactly the kind of person they'd be stupid not to hire." She opened a new email draft. The subject line: "Formal complaint, harassment and defamation by Rick Monroe." "Okay," she said, "start from the beginning. Just facts. No emotion. Tell me everything that happened today." I started typing. At 9 a.m., my father, Rick Monroe, demanded that I cancel my interview to drive my sister to the mall. When I refused, he became angry and physically shoved me against a wall, causing a bruise on my shoulder and breaking a picture frame. At approximately 10:45 a.m., I left the house. While I was in my interview, my father left a threatening voicemail stating that I was unstable and violent and that he would make sure I did not get the job. At 11:30 a.m., I received an email from Innovate confirming that my father had called their office using the exact same language, unstable, violent, to sabotage my application. Tessa read over my shoulder. "Good, very good." Then she added, "Attached are the following. 1. A screenshot of the email from Innovate confirming the slanderous call. 2. The audio recording of Mr. Monroe's voicemail, time-stamped. 3. A photo of the bruise on my shoulder from the earlier assault." I hesitated. "Tessa, is that too much?" "No," she said, already pulling out her phone. It's context. It proves that what he said about you being violent is not only false, it's projection. He's the violent one. She snapped a photo of my shoulder. The bruise had deepened. Purple, red, ugly. I looked away. She finished the email with one final paragraph. It appears Mr. Monroe has used his professional standing as a senior partner at company name to harass and defame a candidate at another firm. This is a clear ethical violation and abuse of power. I remain deeply interested in the role at Innovate and hope my application can be reviewed fairly based on merit. She typed my name, Haley Monroe. Then she looked at me. Are you ready? My hand hovered over the mouse. I thought of his face. His anger. The years of words, worthless, failure, problem. And then I thought of that glass building, of Emily smiling, saying, "We've been expecting you." He spent my whole life calling me nothing, I said quietly. Now his own words are going to destroy him. I clicked send. The next 2 days were the longest of my life. Silence. No calls, no emails, no updates. I barely ate. I barely slept. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach flipped, but it was never Innovate. It was spam, or weather alerts, or Tessa checking in. Eat something. Breathe. They're reviewing it. She was right. Big companies don't move fast, they move carefully, but still, every minute felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. And then, on the morning of the 3rd day, my phone finally rang. The caller ID said, "Innovate." I froze. Tessa looked up from her coffee mug. "Answer it." I put it on speaker. "Hello?" "Hi, Haley. This is Emily, from Innovate." Her voice was calm, professional, warm. "Yes," I said, my voice shaking. "Hi." "First," she said, "I want to apologize. On behalf of everyone here, I am so sorry for what you went through. Your email, it was brave and it was very clear HR reviewed everything. We also reached out to your father's firm for confirmation." My stomach dropped again. You did?" "Yes," she said. Her voice softened. "It turns out your father's company was already aware of similar incidents." I blinked. "What?" "Let's just say your email wasn't the first complaint with his name attached." She paused. "Haley, we want to make this right. We'd like to officially offer you the position of Junior Project Coordinator, with a starting salary of $68,000 and a $5,000 signing bonus." For a second, I didn't understand the words. They didn't fit in my world. "Are you—" My voice cracked. "Are you serious?" "We're the lucky ones, Haley," she said gently. "Welcome to Innovate." I started crying, hard, messy, uncontrollable tears. Tessa grabbed my hand and squeezed. Emily's voice came through the speaker, soft and certain. "You earned this." When the call ended, I just sat there, silent. Then I laughed. Loud, ugly, beautiful laughter, because somehow, against everything, the girl who was always the problem had won. But this story, it wasn't just about me getting a job, because justice doesn't stop quietly. A month later, Tessa sent me a link, a press release. Rick Monroe, senior partner at company name, has been terminated effective immediately following a confirmed ethics investigation. He didn't just lose his job, he lost his reputation, his title, his board seat, everything he used to measure his worth. The man who told me I'd never make it couldn't even keep his own name clean. That night, I sat on the balcony of my new apartment, tiny, quiet, safe, and I thought about the day he shoved me. That was the day he thought he broke me. But the truth is, that was the day I started building the woman who would destroy him, because sometimes a daughter doesn't need revenge. She just needs to rise high enough that her father has to look up to see her again. The first month at Innovate felt like learning to breathe again, not the shallow kind of breathing you do when you're scared someone might yell, but deep, steady, quiet breaths. The office smelled like coffee and fresh paint. My desk had my name on it, Haley Monroe, Junior Project Coordinator. Every time I saw it, a piece of the old world inside me crumbled. I was early every day, not because I had to prove anything, but because I wanted to. I liked the quiet before the phone started ringing. I liked how no one snapped when I made a mistake. No one rolled their eyes. No one used silence as punishment. At lunch, my coworkers actually talked to me. About movies, about hobbies. One even asked if I wanted to join a trivia night. I said no, but I smiled the whole way home. I had my own apartment now. It wasn't fancy. A small studio with creaky floors, one big window, and a cat that sometimes wandered in from the hallway like he owned the place, but it was mine. The first night, I sat on the floor eating instant noodles and staring at the wall. I hadn't realized walls could feel peaceful. For the first time in my life, the silence wasn't heavy, it was safe. A few weeks later, I woke up to a text from Tessa. Check the local business journal. I rubbed my eyes and opened the link. There it was, plain black letters on a white screen. Rick Monroe, senior partner at Harrington & Fields, has been terminated following an internal ethics investigation. The termination results from a confirmed breach of professional conduct and defamation of an external candidate. I read it 3 times. There was a small photo of him, the same one from his company page, gray suit, smug smile, confident eyes. He looked untouchable there. And yet, somewhere behind that polished image, his whole empire had fallen apart. I didn't feel joy. Not really. What I felt was balance. The scale that had been tilted my entire life had finally evened out. I sent the link to Tessa with one line. His own words did it. She replied with a single emoji. The fallout came quickly. 3 days later, I got a voicemail from my mother. Her voice was shaking. "Haley, honey, it's Mom. Please call me back. It's important." I didn't. The next day, another one, then another. Finally, a text. "Please pick up. It's an emergency." For some reason, I did. When I answered, I could hear her crying. The sound was faint, distant, familiar. "Haley," she said between sobs, "you have to help us." I sat at my desk, staring out the window at the city below. "The same city they said I'd never survive in. Help you?" I asked quietly. "Your father," she said. They fired him. They took his pension. We can't pay the mortgage. Brianna's car is going to be repossessed. He won't even get out of bed." Her voice cracked. "You have to do something. We're family." I closed my eyes. Family. That word again. It used to mean obligation, guilt chains. Now it just sounded hollow. "Why are you calling me, Mom?" "What?" she said, confused. "Why me? I thought I was the problem. I thought I ruined everything." "That's not fair," she said quickly. "You know how much we love you." I almost laughed. Love. They had a strange way of showing it. Shoves, silence, humiliation, indifference. "Haley, please," she said, desperate now. "We can't do this without you." I looked at the open email on my computer. A new message from Emily, my boss. Subject: "Great work on that report." My cursor hovered over the reply button. "Mom?" I said softly. She sniffled. "Yes?" "You made your choices." I paused. "So did Dad. Haley, I spent my whole life fixing your messes. Every broken vase, every lie, every fight, not anymore. Haley, please, you can't do this to us." I took a breath. My reflection in the glass caught my eye. Calm, steady, certain. "I'm not doing anything to you," I said. "You did this to yourselves." And then, just before I hung up, I said the words I'd waited my whole life to say, "Fix it yourself." And I ended the call. That night, I sat in my apartment by the window. The city lights shimmered across the glass. I could hear laughter from the street below. Real laughter. I made coffee. The same simple kind I used to make for customers at the cafe. But this time, I made it for me. The first sip tasted like freedom. Weeks passed, no calls, no messages, just silence. The beautiful kind. I bought a bed, then a second-hand couch, then a tiny rug that didn't match either of them, but made the place feel real. The bruise on my shoulder faded, the nightmares slowed. Some mornings I'd wake up early and just sit by the window, watching sunlight spill across the floor. That's how I measured my healing. In sunlight, in coffee cups, in quiet mornings. One day I came home from work and found a letter under my door. No stamp, no envelope, just handwriting I knew too well. "We forgive you. Come home." I folded it once, neatly, and dropped it in the trash. Tessa still came by sometimes. We'd sit on the floor with takeout boxes and cheap wine. She'd tease me about how my cat had adopted me. "You realize," she said once, "you built an entire new life from nothing." "Yeah," I said. "From nothing but a bruise and a dream." She smiled. "And now?" I looked around. My tiny apartment, my plants, my coffee mug, my laptop, my peace. Now I have everything. A month later, I was sitting in a morning meeting when my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Hey, so I guess you're like rich now. Mom's driving me crazy. Can I come stay with you? Brianna." I stared at the message for a long time. I could almost hear her voice. That same smug, careless tone. I deleted it. No reply. Because she wasn't my problem anymore. Sometimes people ask me if I miss them, if I miss having a family, and the truth is, yes, but not them. I miss the idea of what family was supposed to be: people who cheer for you, who want you to win, who love you without keeping score. I didn't lose that. I just built it somewhere else. In a friend who showed up when no one else did, in coworkers who saw my worth without proof, and in a quiet little apartment where the only voice that matters is finally my own. That night, I sat by the window again, lights flickering across the city, and whispered to myself, not out of pride, but peace, "You did it, Haley. You made it out." And in the soft hum of the city below, I swear I could hear an echo. The sound of every woman who's ever been told she's not enough whispering the same thing back. "You did it too." I still remember the way my father's voice used to fill the house. It was the sound of authority, of control. When he spoke, everyone else went silent. Now, when my phone rings, it's the sound of something else. Freedom. It's been a year. A whole year since I walked out of that house with nothing but a wrinkled blazer and a dream. A year since he called me unstable. A year since he swore he'd ruin me. He was right about one thing. That day did change everything, just not the way he expected. Because when you spend your whole life being told you're nothing, you eventually start to believe it, until the day you decide to find out if it's true. And when you do, you realize something terrifying. You were never small. They just needed you to be. I live alone now. A small third-floor apartment, 2 blocks from the office. The walls are still white, but I've started painting one of them a soft shade of blue. Tessa calls it Haley's peace color. I call it the color of silence. My mornings start at 6 a.m., coffee, quiet, and a cat who thinks he owns the place. Then I walk to work, past people rushing to jobs they hate, past the corner cafe that still smells like burnt espresso. Sometimes I stop there, order a drink, and smile when the new barista calls me ma'am. Because I remember standing behind that counter. I remember serving people who looked right through me, and now I'm on the other side. It's funny. You think revenge is loud. Shouting, slamming doors, public humiliation. But real revenge is quiet. It's living the life they told you you couldn't have. It's laughing in peace while they choke on their silence. I haven't spoken to my parents since that phone call, the one that ended with, "Fix it yourself." Sometimes, on bad nights, I still hear his voice in my dreams, still feel the shove against the wall. But when I wake up, I see sunlight spilling across my white walls, and I know that nightmare can't reach me here. Because this place, this quiet, this safety, is the one thing he can never take back. I found out through a friend that he doesn't work anymore. He lost everything. His job, his pension, his board seat. Mom had to sell the house. They live in some small rental now, the kind he used to sneer at when we drove by. Brianna works at a diner. A friend from school said she's not good at it, shows up late, complains, doesn't last long. The irony isn't lost on me. Every now and then, Mom tries to call, sometimes from her number, sometimes from a new one. I don't answer, because I learned something important. Closure doesn't come from confrontation. It comes from acceptance. And I accepted that my parents loved control more than they ever loved me. Last month, I got promoted. Project manager. A corner cubicle with my own team. When Emily told me, I almost cried in her office. She said, "You earned this, Haley. You're one of the best we've got." That night, I walked home in the rain. I didn't run for cover. I let it soak through my hair, my clothes, because it didn't feel like rain. It felt like washing off the last pieces of who I used to be. Sometimes I tell my story, not to get sympathy, but to remind people that cruelty can wear a father's face, that manipulation can sound like love, and that walking away isn't weakness, it's survival. I volunteer at a women's shelter now. I help others write resumes, file complaints, rebuild confidence. When they tell me they're scared to leave, I tell them the truth. You'll never be less afraid. You'll just learn to move anyway. Because that's what courage really is. It's not strength without fear. It's strength despite fear. The other day, someone asked me if I ever miss home. I said, home isn't where you grew up. It's where you finally grow. And I've grown here. In my quiet mornings, in my office full of sunlight, in the way I no longer flinch when someone raises their voice. Every bruise has healed. Every scar has a story. And every story has a lesson. Mine is simple. You can't control what breaks you, but you can control what you build after. Sometimes, when I'm walking to work, I catch my reflection in the glass windows of the Innovate building. I don't see the scared waitress anymore. I see the woman who walked out that door and never looked back. I see someone who chose herself, even when no one else did. And if I could tell that girl one thing, the one standing in the kitchen with a bruise on her shoulder and tears in her throat, I'd whisper, "He didn't ruin your life. He started your story." Before you scroll away, I want you to do something for me. If you're watching this, if any part of my story feels familiar, if you've ever been made to feel small in your own home, leave a comment below and tell me where you're watching from, because you're not alone. And maybe, just maybe, someone needs to see that people like us, the invisible ones, the quiet ones, the ones they called weak, we made it. We're still standing, still breathing, still rising, and that's our revenge.